Put yourself in the frail body of an old, lonely fisherman who has spent his entire life tied to the sea. If your last shred of hope, pride, and faith depended on a single catch, how far would you go? A crimson dawn bled across the horizon, the white-tipped waves rolling in as if they meant to grind anything adrift to dust. On a battered, creaking boat, Old Hack, the oldest fisherman in the village, tied down the oars. His wrinkled eyes, worn by time, still held a fierce, stubborn fire. For 80 days, the sea had yielded him nothing. Neighbors pitied him, some laughed at him, telling him to retire. But to Old Hack, the sea was part of his blood, impossible to abandon, impossible to forget. Today, an early wind rose, an omen of danger, but Old Hack refused to turn back. He believed this day would be different, believed it so hard that even the winds seemed to fall silent as he pushed off from shore. By evening, the sea was as still as a vast graveyard. Old Hack's bait sank into the dark depths, unmoving, until suddenly, a violent tug shot through his trembling arm, nearly throwing him overboard. The fish. Not an ordinary one. A massive dark shape moved below, fins sharp as blades, flashing silver under the water. A giant marlin, bigger than anyone in the village had ever seen. Old Hack's heart pounded. Though his hands were cracked and raw, he gripped the fishing line tighter. The fish pulled, thrashed, dragging the little boat into unknown waters. Night fell, the sea black and dense, the salty stink thick in the air. The cold bit down on every nerve. But he would not let go. Never. The sun scorched overhead. The fish still had not tired, and neither had the old man. They were bound together in a struggle as fierce as fate itself. Night came. The stars faded. A storm gathered. Towering waves crashed down like falling cliffs, slamming the fragile boat. Old Hack was thrown against the gunwale, blood seeping from his lips. But his hand stayed locked on the line. "You want to test me? Fine. Come on." He growled into the sea, into the darkness, as if shouting at his own fear. The fish finally began to weaken, its movements slowing, its body scarred from battle. But it refused to die easily, fighting with a desperate will that made Old Hack respect it even more. When the third sunrise broke, Old Hack summoned the last of his strength, pulling one final time. The line drew tight, ready to snap. Then suddenly the fish broke the surface, its huge body flashing white, water spraying everywhere, before crashing onto the deck with a heavy thud. He looked into its eyes, dark and full of freedom, now still. Old Hack gasped for breath, feeling pride and sorrow all at once. He tied the giant prize to the side of the boat and turned for shore. But the sea was not finished with him yet. The blood had drawn the sharks. One shadow, then two, then three, circling with hungry precision. Old Hack roared, swinging the oar at their snapping jaws. Again and again, he beat them back. But more came. Their teeth tore chunks from the marlin's flesh, white strips drifting in a crimson sea. He fought like a madman, his hands chewed and bleeding, his shoulders scraped raw. Blood mixed with more blood. By nightfall, the great fish was stripped to its bones, a bare white skeleton. Old Hack collapsed, hands bandaged in rags, calling out into the emptiness. No one answered but the mocking laughter of the waves. Villagers saw him limping in, dragging the enormous skeleton behind his boat. A few children stared in awe. The adults whispered among themselves. No one looked at him as a failure anymore. Even though he had lost all the meat, his courage had made them bow their heads in respect. He lifted his eyes, those old eyes still burning like a warrior's. Deep inside, he knew he had not lost, because he had risked everything and refused to break before the sea. Maybe deep down, what defines a person is the ability to stand tall, even when everything is lost. If it were you, would you dare to gamble on your dream one more time?